Okay, so this is question number 3. Okay, so the question is asking, how do you find the cumulative relative frequency? So let's go through what the junior tutor had for the solution, and then we'll go through how to get the correct answer. So a frequency, reading over here, a frequency is the number of times a given datum occurs in a data set, and then we're looking for the cumulative relative frequency. So we're defining relative frequency, which is the fraction of times a frequency occurs. To find relative frequencies, divide each frequency by the total number of students. So we're gonna go through this process down here. So cumulative relative frequency is the accumulation of previous relative frequencies. So we're calculating each relative frequency for each kind of data set, and then we're adding the accumulation. And then to find the cumulative relative frequencies, add all the previous relative frequencies to the relative frequency for the current row. So let's look at the table, because that might have not made much sense, but we'll look at this table to understand what's going on. So here, this is kind of the given table for this example. So the data 3, 5, 2, 7. So this is for each data set here, we have the frequency 20. So it's occurring 20 times for a data 3, 12 for 5, 14 for 2, and 4 for 7. So in the above table, data is given in which 20 students study 3 hours. So there's 20, the number of students that study 3 hours. So here data is representing for how many hours each student is studying. We have 12 students that are studying for 5, 14 for 2, and 4 for 7. In the table below, table 2, we're calculating relative frequency and cumulative relative frequency. So here we can see that we start off with 20. We do 20 times divided by 50. So 50 is here, is adding up all these numbers. So we have 20 plus 12 plus 14 plus 4, and that would be 50. So 20 plus 12 is 32. 32 plus 14 is 46, and then 46 plus 4 is 50. You can also plug this into your calculator to verify. So here we take the frequency divided by the total, and we end up with 0.4. And then for the first row, the cumulative relative frequency was just 0.4. Moving onward, we do the same thing for the second row, and then the cumulative relative frequency here is a little different because we have to take the previous one and add it to the current one. So we add these two and we get the cumulative. And then the next row, we take essentially all 3 rows and add them up, or we take the solution from the second row and add it to the frequency of the third row. And then lastly, a similar idea, it will be just adding all of these up and you get 0.64. So, or you can add 0.56 plus 0.8. So this should be 0.8 actually. And then this is kind of the example that it shows you. So essentially for any data set, this is the process that you do. So let's run through this table doing the calculations just so you have a better grasp of what's going on. So if we had, so we have for row 1, so we'll say data, and then we have frequency, and then we have relative frequency, and then we have cumulative relative frequency. We have 3, 5, 2, 7, and then we'll do this. And then so for the frequency of 20, 12, 14, and 4. So if you were given this in a question, you would be given this information right here. And you would need to go through how to calculate the relative frequency and the cumulative relative frequency. And you would have to try to figure that out. So here let's go through the definitions again. So relative frequency is the fraction of times a frequency occurs. To find the relative frequency, divide each frequency by the total number of students. And that's what we're going to do. So we know the total is 50. We'll take for the first relative frequency, we take 20 divided by 50, and that will give us 0.4. So we double check, put this in our calculator, we get 0.4. And then next we'd have 12 divided by 50, so we'll plug it in just to double check the calculation. We'd get 0.24. And then we have 14 divided by 50. For the third row, we get 0.28. And then finally, we have 4 divided by 50. And we get 0.08. So actually, we can see that the final row here is incorrect. However, when they're doing the calculation, they get the correct final answer. But this should be 0.08. And then we'll do the cumulative relative frequency. Cumulative relative frequency. So the first one is 0.4, pretty straightforward. The second one is 0.4 plus 0.24, which is 0.28. The third row is 0.28 plus 0.28, which is 0.56. So if you plug that into your calculator, you would get the same, 0.56, that's correct. And then finally, 0.56 plus 0.08, you would get 0.64. And that's how you calculate the cumulative relative frequency. So we'll mark this answer as correct. So great work. Answer explanation. Great job. Final row should have a relative frequency of 0.08 in the calculation. And we'll mark this as correct.